What's going on? It's Scott here. It's around 9 o'clock. I got up at about 7. Went to bed early last night because I had an exam. And we're back working on the 2002 Mitsubishi Eclipse. I'm wiring up the halos today. I have the passenger side wired up, and I learned on that side with my dad. So now I'm going to show you what I learned on the driver's side, and hopefully you guys can learn something too. This is specifically with the 2002 Mitsubishi Eclipse, but if you follow this process, you should be able to wire halos into any car that you're working on. So, depending on how your car is made, like with the Eclipse, to remove the headlights, there are 1, 2, 3 10mm bolts. And I changed these over to stainless because I broke the normal steel one on the passenger side. So use a ton of penetrating oil, especially if you're working on an Eclipse, because I did snap one up here. Like you can see, it's just stuck in there. And that was the first bolt that I turned on the headlight, and I was pretty frustrated. But yeah, these are there's 3 10mm bolts, 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna get a socket wrench and I'm gonna loosen those up. Get the one up at the top. And I put never sees on every one of them. A bunch of washers. So I didn't want them getting stuck and breaking off ever again. I mean, they're stainless, so they shouldn't rust. So yeah, I got like 2, like a small washer and a big washer. Okay, so I got all 3 bolts out. On the driver's side, this is the original headlight and it's hazy, and that's why I replaced it. I'm gonna do so when I do end up polishing the headlights, I'm gonna probably practice on the original ones so I don't mess up my replacements. So on the lower right corner right here, there's this little metal stud, I guess you could call it, that is stuck into the chassis or the frame of the car or whatever you want to call it. So that's what we got to pull out now, and like be careful not to break it. The aftermarket headlights, especially, like the plastic is really cheap and brittle, but like the original ones, they're super beefy and nicely produced. Sure, so it's like right here. Wait, yeah. It's right there is where that stud is. I don't want to break that. Oh, I think it. Oh, nice. It wasn't even in there. So that stud is supposed to be in this little like recess, and it was just floating. So I'll show you where that little stud is supposed to be in here. So that stud's supposed to be in there, and it was just like floating, which is actually better because on that side, so on this side, it actually broke off when my dad was pulling on it. So I think that's why we didn't like force it in there when we put the driver's side on. So like it's just completely broke off, and that's what I was saying, like the plastic is super brittle, and like apparently it happened early enough where I glued it, but yeah, so just be careful of that, because yeah, there's evidence that it clearly pulls off. And my weather stripping is peeling off, so I'm gonna probably glue this on at some point. Like I'm gonna clean up the old glue that was on here and then re-glue this on. Like these are from my originals. Like I got these from the boneyard without, like, the weather stripping fell off, so I got a good deal on them because I talked them down because the weather stripping was all missing. So we got these exposed wires for the halos, and there's some oxidation. They're like green, but we're gonna also check to make sure that this clip, that, or the socket, I guess you'd say, gotta make sure that this is not corroded, because the passenger side was corroded, and that's why my headlight was out. And my fear was it is corroded, so like I pulled that out to make sure it wasn't corroded, and it is corroded, and then it broke. So luckily I have the piece of plastic that it broke. So yeah, these are just really brittle, aftermarket headlights, the plastic should not be breaking like that, because the original socket, like when I pulled it, that didn't break. Like the female portions didn't pull out, but the male on the aftermarket just shattered. So I'm gonna sand these contacts. So like, I think you can see that. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit. So yeah, as you can see, they're green and they're oxidized. So we gotta sand that up and then put some dielectric grease on it to prevent future corrosion, because if it gets corroded enough, your headlights won't even turn on. So we're gonna use this dielectric tune-up grease to prevent future corrosion. Once we get these contacts all sanded up, and then I have to glue that piece of plastic back on because it decided to break, unfortunately. But like, this was like my biggest concern right away, because I had a feeling it was corroded, and it is. So that's just something to keep in mind while you're doing your headlights. All right, so I'm currently letting the glue dry for the connector, like the male portion that broke that you saw earlier. So that's glue drying in the house, and we got the headlight out. I'm gonna be showing you how to wire up the halos. So like these wires that are just chilling, just floating around, these are tied to the halos, and then like whatever this upper, like, so the halos are in here, and what I don't know what this is called. There's also LED lights up here, so we're gonna be wiring those to our marker lights. And the marker light is right here on an O2 Eclipse. I mean, might be a little bit different on other vehicles, but to figure out what wire we have to splice, so when you're doing this work, you're gonna want a digital multimeter. This I got as being an electrical engineering student from the IEEE department. I had to buy it from them, and it was the recommended one. So you need these splice connectors. The blue ones are the ones I'm using, so I use them on the passenger side, and I have one for the driver's side. And I'll show you how to figure out what the power wire is on your marker light without, I mean, like, you could look at a wiring diagram, but this is like the easiest way. So I tested them, it all works. I stripped the wires going, like, I cut and restripped the wires to get fresh copper on the wiring for the marker lights. I repaired this connector, like I glued it and sanded the contacts and put dielectric grease on them. So we're all ready to wire this up. We're gonna wire up the halo lights on this 2002 Mitsubishi Eclipse. And if you're wiring your halo lights and you don't know your wiring, if you have a different vehicle, like, you can check the wiring diagram, but I'm going to show you with a multimeter how to figure out what wire goes to your marker light. That's because this marker light's dual purpose. It's for the blinker and the marker light. All right, so this is the wiring harness that goes to the marker light, and then you're just gonna want to disconnect the whole thing, like twist it. So like every vehicle's different, so I just twisted it. That exposes the bulb, and then we're gonna take the bulb out, check how corroded it is, and it is pretty corroded, as you can see. That contact is green, and that'll actually, and then the bulb is green as well, so that'll actually throw an error telling you that the bulb is burnt out. And that's no bueno. So, and then looking at the contacts, you can tell the wires going to the contacts, and that's how we're gonna test we're gonna test to see which one of these contacts and wires is connected to the marker light on this wiring harness. So I'm gonna clean this up, and then to do that, I'm gonna use a Allen key, sandpaper, and then clean it up, and then clean it with 91% isopropyl alcohol, and then put some dielectric grease on there to protect it from corroding like that again, because that is bad. Like, that'll cause a lot of issues down the road. So we're gonna get that all cleaned up since we're this far into it and we have the headlight off. So yeah, I'm gonna do all that work, and then we'll get back to working on that. And I'll put some dielectric on this rubber gasket as well to hopefully seal it better so water doesn't get in there and corrode it again. So yeah, we'll do that and get back to it. Alright, so if you're wiring up your marker, your halos on a 2002 Mitsubishi Eclipse to your marker lights, and you're trying to figure out which wire goes to where, your wiring harness or the contacts for your marker light slash turn signal light are probably corroded. So you're going to take an Allen key and then a strip of sandpaper and then wrap it around the Allen key like so, and then just get in there and sand the corrosion off of the contacts, because that is awful. So keep doing that. So like you can see it was green, you can see a little bit of copper coming through, and we're just gonna do that and clean it with the isopropyl alcohol and a Q-tip, and use a Q-tip or our pinky to put dielectric grease in there. So you can see it's coming off slowly but surely. The coarser the sandpaper, the easier it is. I just have whatever this little bit of sandpaper is. So alright, so I just sanded everything, cleaned it up with isopropyl alcohol, and yeah, I got that the good old 91% isopropyl alcohol that's hard to find these days. And then I'm going to blow out the connector with compressed air, because I got this air compressor right here. As you can see, got the little blow off nozzle on it, and then we got the contacts nice and shiny. Now, since everything's nice and clean, we're gonna take some dielectric grease, coat it on there, and then on this, if you have the funds, just go to AutoZone and replace this and the bulb, because it'll save you time down the line. But if you don't have money like me, sanding the contacts and doing this procedure of cleaning everything up and putting dielectric grease on it should save you some time before you have to buy a new bulb and connector right here. So and then we're going to put dielectric grease on the seal to hopefully prevent moisture from getting in there and corroding our contacts again. So I'm gonna get new gloves on. Yeah. So now that we have everything cleaned up, make sure that you pick up some dielectric tune-up grease from your local hardware store or wherever you buy things of this nature, and you can use a cotton swab or a Q-tip and cover the contacts or your pinky if you have nitrile gloves on. I mean, if you don't care about your skin, it doesn't really matter. It should be fine. So just take some on your pinky. Alright, so now that we have the contacts cleaned up and everything, we are in good shape to test what wire goes to the marker light down here. Because the turn signal and marker light are both connected to the same wiring harness. So what you're going to do is go to your car, turn your marker lights on. So I'm going to do that right now. You just turn the headlight switch one turn on 2002 Mitsubishi Eclipse. So on 2002 Mitsubishi Eclipse, turn your marker lights on. All you have to do is go in here and then turn the dial one time. That turned the marker light on. So you don't see it on this side because I took the bulb out. But on this side, my marker light is lit up. I mean, it's kind of hard to see because it's black. But you can see my halos that I already wired up on this side, and the light bar lit up. So our marker light is on. We know that for a fact. So with the marker lights being on, you're gonna take your digital multimeter, whatever kind you have. This is the one I got at my college from the IEEE department. And I'll like research and see like what brand and stuff this is, see if I can find it online. I'll post a link in the description if I can find it. I'm not sure where they got it from, but it's a I don't even know how to pronounce it. So it's a VICI VC97, whatever that is. I'll look it up. We'll see if we can figure out what it is. I'm gonna get my leads connected. Okay, so on this multimeter, there's different ports. So this is positive, and then this is the negative. So I cannot even remember how to use this. Let's just assume that it's that. I can't remember. We'll figure it out. So I'm gonna go to voltage, and it's on DC. That's what we want. We have like the option to go to AC, but we want DC because it's direct current. This is in millivolts. We want it in volts probably, so we're gonna hit range. So we're in volts, and it's on the ground. So okay, we're on volts. DC, we're gonna hopefully find around 12-ish volts. So I'm gonna put this here, so you can kind of see. Let's see if you can see it. Can you see it? So you can see my display, I hope. A little bit of glare for me. If you touch the screw here and then you touch the contact on the right, it's 11.5 volts. Round that up to 12 volts roughly. That's what a car battery is 12 volts. I'm not sure why the polarity's flipped. It's interesting. So yeah, 11.5 volts on this right hand side contact. So if you're looking in there with me, I think you can see that. So right there, that's 11.5 volts. That is our marker contact, and then we can look at the wiring harness. The black and pink is the marker light wire. So that's how you find which wire is associated to your marker light and which one's associated with your turn signal. And then yeah, I'm gonna turn off my multimeter, make sure you turn that off so you don't kill the battery. So we now know on the driver's side, the black and pink wire is our marker light wire, the ground is in the center, and then our turn signal wire is this green dotted one. So it was different on the passenger side. All right, so we are wiring the halos in. We figured out that on the driver's side that the pink and black wire is associated to the marker light. That's what we're going to be wiring our light bar and halo lights into. And we need, so that's for our power, which is red, and then we need a ground here. And we're going to use the ground for the headlight. And I'm pretty sketched out trying to loosen that. It's a 10mm bolt, and I've snapped every 10mm bolt that, well, not everyone, but like I broke one on the headlight here. So like I snapped this one on the passenger side, and then I snapped two of them that are in this gas cap thing. So I snapped that one and I snapped that one. Luckily the one on top didn't snap, but I'm pretty scared to loosen this. So if you're doing this job on an O2 Eclipse and you see that bolt on either side, like if you see this bolt, the ground bolt, corroded on either side, make sure you hit it with penetrating oil first. So like this one we luckily didn't break on the passenger side, but I hope to God I can get it to not break on the driver's side. All right, so we are going to splice in our power wire on our marker light. So you got this like corrugated plastic tubing, and then it's like split down the side. So you're gonna, there's a little bit of tape on the, a little bit of electrical tape right here. Just peel that off, and then I'll expose the wires like so. And then we got a better look at what we're working with. So that pink and black light wire is what we're going to splice our power wire into, and then this green wire is for the turn signal, and then the middle wire is our ground for both. I just looked at what I had like near me, and I got some scissors. Hopefully I can get that in there. Okay, so I got the scissors in. There we go. Cut the shrink tubing, and then we can expose our wire. Pull it out. So got a little extra chunk of electrical tape, so we can just pull our wiring out like so. And then expose our wire, and then there's electrical tape just randomly wrapped around it. So fun. Alright, so I just cut a piece of the 12 gauge wire. I measured it, it's 19 inches. Just like make sure you have enough to work with. Like 12 inches or better, whatever, 12 inches. I just estimated and then I measured it just to tell you exactly how much wire I cut. So with the splice connector that I got, you don't have to strip the wire, because that's like the concept behind it. Like this little metal piece, when you crush it with the pliers, splices the wire. It makes connection. So there are two channels. So there's a channel that you're gonna like that goes all the way through. So like this channel right here on the outer side, it goes all the way through. So like that's the wire that you're gonna splice into. So that's gonna be our pink and black wire that we're splicing into. So that'll be on the outside, and then in the inside there's like a cap on the end. So you shove the power wire, in this case, into there until it bottoms out, and then we're gonna put the black and pink wire on the outer side, and take a pliers and then crush the metal piece to splice the wire in. And you can kind of pick where you splice it, but you could cut the corrugated tubing. I pulled this out so it was easier to work with. So like you just gauge roughly where it's gonna be, roughly where the wire is gonna be, because this thing won't fit. This blue thing won't fit inside this corrugated plastic. So you gotta just like line it up. So like you just take your fingers, line up roughly where the gap is, and then we're gonna splice onto right here. So get it kind of as close as I can to the connector up here, so that we have some space to take. Okay, so about right. So like right there. That's in there, and then making sure my power wire is pushed all the way to the stopping point. So we got that, and then we want that to be facing up, like so. Alright, so I spliced in the power wire backwards according to my dad, and he's pissed that I did it this way, but he wasn't here. So now that he's here, he pointed out that, okay, so like when you put this in, like now the wire is like going against itself. He wanted it like in the same direct. Okay, so like you can't even see with my hands. So like he wanted this power wire in the same direction going towards this way. I flipped it around, of course, because fuck my life, right? But so yeah, so like if you're doing this, make sure that you splice the wire in the same direction.
Is the pink wire going off?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, at least I did the right wire. So, okay, like, yeah. So make sure that you have your power wire running parallel to the wires that are in the harness. Or, I mean, in the corrugated tubing. Because I did exactly what my dad told me not to over the phone. So, yeah. Learned from it, though. So, yeah, I did this backwards. So don't do it perpendicular. Like, so I thought he meant to have it facing this way, and he meant to face it the other way. So then now you take a pair of pliers, and then you crush the metal thing. As hard as you can. And that'll splice in your connection. like that. So we just spliced in our power wire into our marker light wire, and then I'm gonna take some 12 gauge ground wire, the black stuff right here, and then I'm gonna make a ground wire with a loop on it area. So I'm gonna strip one side, put the ring terminal on it, and then have all our sets stripped, and then we're gonna use alligator clips to make sure that this is all good before we tape everything off and put it all back together. So I'll get to that. Okay, so this could either go really good or really bad. Got my 10mm socket on my socket wrench, and then it's right there, counterclockwise. Oh, thank God I didn't break it. So put as much penetrating oil on there as possible so it makes better contact. Okay, so yeah, I'm thankful to God I didn't break that, because that is pretty corroded. So I'm gonna sand that. That is pretty effed. I mean, I wish I had some stainless 10mm bolts like that, but I don't, unfortunately. I'm gonna sand the connector on the ground to make sure we have a better ground connection, because there is corrosion on there. So I'm gonna sand and clean all that up, put some dielectric on everything, and then we'll get to wiring that up. So now we're gonna put electrical tape on it. Well, shouldn't we put the corrugated thing back on?
No. You put that on, you gotta get this on there first, and then you put the corrugated tape, and then you put another roll on top of it.
Alright. Okay, so apparently whatever.
You gotta get two layers here. Grass area. Cut some off of it.
So we're cutting the corrugated tubing because it's electrical, or the splice connector is too big to fit in it. Now we're putting electrical tape on the corrugated tubing to close it up so it doesn't come out. coating? Are you like doing the whole thing?
Yeah.
Dude, if we ever have to rewire it, we're fucked.
No, you just take one end of it, comes off.
Huh?
This comes off. The cheap stuff the cheap stuff that they use does not come off.
Oh god. Interesting.
This will come off if you grab one end of it and pull it and unwind it.
Huh?
If you find the end of it and unwind it, it'll come off.
Okay. Makes sense. Still don't get why you're mad, because like, doesn't this? Oh, I get where you're. Never mind, I understand. Still, like,
You still have
it doesn't make sense until you plug it, until you put the connector in the socket.
You gotta think 3 steps ahead and see what you're doing.
Well, as I was working on it, it made sense.
So this goes back on the halos.
Yeah, and then, I mean, you can stick the bulb back in. So we're putting the bulb back in for the marker lights and turn signal.
You turn it on then?
Did it not twist?
It twisted.
You twist it on?
Yeah, it's a very small twist.
You turn it on?
Yeah, I got one on. I'll turn on the other one.
What are you talking about? Oh,
Turn the blinker. Yeah.
Oh
yeah,
okay.
that's bright.
So
Holy crap, is that bright?
yeah, is it the right bulb?
Yeah.
Obviously. Okay.
It doesn't matter. It works.
Yeah.
I don't know. The marker light's pretty dim, but I think that was dim on the other side too. That way.
Yeah.
But it was dimmer than that before we started.
Okay, so we replace the bulb. So we're stripping the wire for the power. Alright, so we got everything working. Now we gotta finish wiring it up, because like we had the grounding issue with the halos, and that made us have to fix that. So we got that fixed. Now I stripped some black 12 gauge wire. I just kind of guesstimated about 19 inches of ground wire, and then we got this ring terminal. So we're using a ring terminal to ground our system that we got going on in here. So if you have one of these crimping tools, you should have one. If you don't, get one. So like the male portion, like the stud basically, you want to crimp down on your copper wire. I guess do this with your hands. So you stick your copper wire in, you have the male portion sticking down, and my camera is god awful. So you got that in there, and then you just crimp it. That didn't sound too good, but we have the copper wire crimped on there. It's not going anywhere. So yeah, that's what you want. I think I'm gonna have to snip this exposed wire off, because I want it to be snug against the bolt. So I'm just snipping that away, because you want the bolt to be nice and secure. Wires, kind of bend that down a little bit. Okay, so we got a ring terminal on our ground wire, and then I sanded the ground up in there. So we got the ground all sanded. We got this ground piece sanded. I gotta put the dielectric on it. So I got some dielectric grease. I'm gonna coat that on the bolt as well, so it doesn't get stuck. So I got some dielectric, and then going to coat the ground wire in it. I sanded it so it's all nice and cleaned up. Now it is gonna make some good contact, and then take the dielectric and then the bolt that is rusty. I sanded the washer, so I sanded that. I'm just gonna coat the whole thing in dielectric because I want it to come off if I ever have to work on these headlights again. Alright, so now that we have everything stripped and prepped to put together and assemble, we're just gonna rat tail all of our powers and grounds together, and then use these closed end connectors from Gardner Bender. You can probably pick them up at your local hardware store. Alright, so we're rat tailing the power and grounds together and then putting the end connectors on them and taping it up. So black to black and red to red, and then everything should hopefully work. And then I can get this checked off by the police tonight and I won't get a ticket tomorrow. So he put the end connector on. You got the 3 wires, the 2 from the headlights, and then the 1 for the ground that we're connecting to the ground of the vehicle. You just crimped it on like so. And then he's gonna cover it in tape, probably. So he made sure that like the wires didn't pull out. He's covering it in electrical tape. Okay, so we got the ground all connected. Now we gotta do the power. So we're doing the power. It's rat tailing the 2 power wires from the headlight.
Got my light.
Is in the lights. Okay. Okay, so we got the power and ground wired up, and then we got a ground to tighten on the ground bolt and connector. So we got the 10 mil ground bolt, and then a ring connector.
Where's the socket then?
It's my hand.
You test it before you put it in the ground?
Yeah. Alright, so we're gonna test it now. Everything's wired up. So the ground's tightened?
Yeah.
And it works on both sides. So we got the halos and the light bar on both sides working, and then my dad just put in the marker light on the driver's side and it's working. Passenger side marker light is also working. So passenger side marker light's also working with the halos and light bar. So it's all wired up. And we ran out of light at the right time because now you can see it a little bit better. I gotta go get this all checked off at the police station so I don't get a ticket tomorrow. So I just put the headlights back in, tighten down the 10mm bolts. You're good to go. So I'm just gonna tighten down all the, like 3 bolts. So so there's 1, 2, 3 bolts. I replaced them with stainless steel bolts and washers. So I'm gonna tighten those all down on both sides.
I don't know, I can't see over there.
What?
I can't see over there. My marker's lit.
Yeah, okay, so that's good. Now headlights.
Got a headlight here, you got a headlight there.
Yeah, headlights work. And then high beams. Hell yeah, we did it. Oh yeah, they're all working. Okay, so I can
Tighten
get
them
this.
up, let's get out of here.
Yeah, I gotta tighten them up and go get this checked off by the police and hang out with my friend Glenn. What?